Thank you very much to the organizers for inviting me to participate in this event. I am very grateful and pleased of being here. Our work is about study of circular economy approach in an agricultural cooperative context. Our current way of living, linear-oriented, is not functional any longer because it is disassembled with natural system functioning, which are the foundation of our socioeconomic system. Circular economy appears to be an alternative to the current paradigm to restore the environment, to reuse or repair or recycle our wastes, and to change our view of consumption. In Argentina, there is evidence that some circularity principles are being applied since some time. At national level, there is a Department of Residues and Circular Economy, and a Technical Circular Economy Roundtable was created in 2019. Argentina, characterized by its agricultural sector, occupies the first places of main grains for production and export in the world ranking of both economic and mass values. Pampas region, the red cycle in the figure, is one of the most productive zones of the world. It concentrates 78% of total primary production and agricultural manufactures. Santa Fe province, the one colored in red in the map, contributes with 31% of it. The agricultural cooperatives are very important in the grain business of Argentina. They bring together small and medium farmers, and 40% of them are located in Pampas region. Farmers usually use cooperatives as one way for storing and trading their products. Together, they have high potential for increasing and promoting local sustainable development, agricultural regeneration, environmental health, and competitive trade. In a globalized trade world, Argentina needs to increase its competitiveness, moving towards a more sustainable production system. The study of the circulating flows and mechanisms associated to an agricultural cooperative would contribute with tools and recommendations towards certification and regional development. The agricultural cooperative of Monje agreed to work with INTA Oliveros, a research agricultural institution, for the Proceeds project, which is promoting circular economy within the food supply chain, founded by Horizon 2020 and Marie Curie. Both the agricultural cooperative and the INTA Oliveros are located in Santa Fe province, distanced by 20 kilometers. The selected area for the ongoing project at local level involves the cooperative itself, which has several cycling processes inside. Its outputs are grain mainly for export, animal feed, methyl oil, animals, mainly pigs, and biogas. The biogas is transformed into electricity in order to be used at the methyl oil plant. The digested material has potential for being used as biofertilizers. Then we have the associated grain basin. Here, the essential farm and farmers are located. They are essential because without them the cooperative cannot work. The reference site in INTA Oliveros offer results and research on different areas, mainly from a system managed utilizing low amount of inputs, cover crops in winter time, and grazing animals within a crop rotation. The surrounding industry to look for the suitable ones that might interact in a circular way with the cooperative. And then the different actors link it to the activity, whose opinion and perception on circular mechanisms influence the decisions and actions inside the selected zone. However, the focus of this presentation is on the farmers of the supply grain basin showed by the red cycle and on the actors' awareness, mainly the awareness of farmers and agronomists. We refer as agronomists as a short way to include professionals from natural and agrarian sciences. Therefore, the first focus is on the grain provision basin of Monge Agricultural Cooperative. We focus on the basin in order to identify circularity mechanisms. For doing that, we have conducted a semi-structured survey addressed to farmers by personal interviews. We focused on some criteria such as land tenure, crop rotation and diversity, use of cover crops in winter time, which is a way for increasing diversity and soil health, and residues management. 52 farmers answered the survey, which represent around 90% of the total selected, as we can see in the upper picture. These farmers deliver 100% of their grain production to the cooperative and occupy around 6,600 hectares. Regarding land tenure and crops diversity, those 52 farmers are distributed in landowners and land tenants, managing similar land proportion and utilizing similar criteria on the practices applied. For that reason, we do not differentiate land tenure in relation to the area occupied by crops. Therefore, in summer season, around 70% of the land is occupied by only one crop, which is soybean, from first and second sowing date, and 20% of the area is occupied by corn, also from first and second sowing date. In the winter season, around 70% of the land is managed by chemical fallow, which means that we find only stubble and no crops at all. 16% of the land is occupied by wheat and only 2% by cover crops. Around 10% of the land is used for livestock. This crops homogeneity and therefore land homogeneity brought up our attention, but it brought it more when we noticed that these farmers actually managed other 14,000 hectares distributed outside the selected area. Therefore, focusing on the winter season, specifically on cover crops, we asked about the reason for not sowing them. Most of the farmers answered that because they do not know how to do it. They also answered that the reason is because they have stubble coverage and because of the costs. Regarding residues management, 35% of the respondents said they do some kind of management. When we ask what kind of management they do, those farmers that have livestock said that they threw the manure to the ditch or they sprayed it on production line even if it is wet or dry. Regarding plastics, they answered in a similar proportion that they sell the agrochemical containers, they recycle them after washing, or they deliver the containers to the cooperative. The reason that farmers provided for not doing any kind of management are because they hire a spraying service that is responsible for handling agrochemical containers, but they also answered that they not generate any residues and they do not have reason for recycling them. We have mentioned that crop diversity, cover crops inclusion, and residues management are some of the tools for starting the change towards a circular approach. Therefore, due to the preliminary results obtained from the farmers associated to Monge supply basin that I have already showed, we wanted to know about the perceptions related to circular mechanisms implemented and the barriers to face. For that reason, we involved a larger number of farmers and agronomists. Therefore, we conducted a survey, an online survey using a Google form spread via email, WhatsApp, Twitter, and Instagram. For most of the questions, the participants could choose more than one response. The survey asked for demographic characterization of the respondents, perception on different aspects, and we link them in this presentation with Monge farmers' answer. So, agronomists and farmers were represented respectively by 32 and 24% of the total sample. Therefore, considering only agronomists and farmers as total, which amount around 48 respondents, we can say that most of them are between 30 and 60 years old, had a bachelor or higher degree, and they are employees. Regarding where to focus the implementation, we asked farmers and agronomists which aspect would they focus the implementation for a circularity approach. Both of them have perceived relevant with the highest frequency to focus on goods and products recycling and reuse, and to focus on the integration between productive units in the area. When we asked specifically to farmers on which practices would they focus the implementation for a circularity approach, they have perceived with similar frequencies that crop and livestock integration, the use of cover crops, waste management, and crop diversification and rotation are the main practices to focus. Therefore, while they perceive these practices are important for implementing circularity, we found out that some of them, specifically the farmers associated to the cooperative, are not doing them because of the lack of knowledge, as they already said, and as we will also see later on with the larger sample. Now about the strategies to use. We asked what strategies could favor the transition to circular or regenerative schemes in the activity. Agronomists perceived that promoting the agroindustrial symbiosis could be the most relevant. Similarly, farmers have selected in first place the promotion of mechanisms to integrate small and medium-scale enterprises. Then, with similar frequencies, of selection, they have seen the incentives for resource diversification and cycling to facilitate access to process technologies and to favor sustainable productions. Regarding the barriers, we asked which are the main barriers towards the transition of a circular economy within the sectors. Both sectors have selected as relevant lack of adequate knowledge on the subject and lack of government incentives. And also they have selected the lack of regulation adjusted to the different scales of production. Now, how make this transition possible? When we ask about the areas of investment, both sectors have perceived with the highest frequency the need to invest on education and on research and innovation in processes. When we ask who are the key subjects to drive the transition towards the circularity approach, both have perceived citizens or consumers in the first place, but also with similar frequency, they have also selected science and technology bodies, private businesses, politicians, youth. Therefore, they perceive that all sectors of society need to be involved. As concluding remarks, I can say that within the farmers' land associated to the cooperative, there is a critical situation regarding resources cycling mechanisms evidenced by the high landscape homogeneity during summertime and the high proportion of land without no crops in wintertime. Farmers mainly argued that the lack of knowledge about the benefit of including cover crops. There is also a need for a better residues management. However, asking a larger number of agronomists and farmers about different aspects for implementing circularity in the sector, they perceived relevant the crop diversity, animal and crop rotation, use of cover crops, waste management, products recycled and reused, and the integration between productive units. Even though respondents perceived relevant the mentioned aspects and practices for implementing circularity within the sector, they also perceived necessary a support to invest on education and research to provide incentives and to involve all actors of the society in order to start changing towards a circular paradigm. Farmers directly connected with Monje Agricultural Cooperative, as well as agronomists and other farmers related, are relevant actors in the region, not only because of their role in production and trading, but also because of their commitment and involvement that might influence and drive regional transition towards circular mechanisms within the rural area. Thank you very much for your attention.